Hello and welcome. It's Tuesday, the 1st of April. You're tuned in to our 10 a.m. newscast here on Arirang TV. Let's take a look at what's making the headlines. South Korea exchanges artillery fire with North Korea after a live-fire military drill ordered by Pyongyang sees shells smash into South Korean waters. The U.S. condemns the North for its dangerous provocation. North Korea expresses a willingness to discuss its abductions of Japanese nationals as the two countries agree to carry on with their first governmental talks in well over 1 year. Plus, U.S. Federal Reserve Chair Janet Yellen says the central bank's easy money policies aimed at boosting the U.S. economy will be needed for some time to come. But our top story this morning, the two Koreas on Monday peppered each other's territorial waters with artillery shells in the latest show of inter-Korean tensions. A North Korean military drill saw nearly 100 shells smash into the South Korean waters, which prompted a measured response from Seoul. For the latest, we are going to connect live to our correspondent Kim Hyun-bin, who's standing by at the Ministry of National Defense in Seoul. Hyun-bin.
South Korea remains on high alert following Monday's exchange of hundreds of artillery rounds across the Western Sea border. Officials say that out of the 500 rounds fired by the North during the live firing drills, around 100 fell 3.5 kilometers over the border in South Korean waters near the Baengnyeongdo Island. South Korea responded by shooting 300 K-9 self-propelled heavy artillery shells into North Korean waters, while dispatching several F-15 fighter jets to the maritime border, known in Korea as the Northern Limit Line. Civilians on South Korea's Baengnyeongdo Island were forced to take shelter during the exchanges, which lasted about 3 hours. Earlier in the day, the North's command of the Korean People's Army had faxed South Korean Navy's Second Fleet, announcing the live firing drills. The first time it's informed the South of the exercise ahead of time. The South Korean government interpreted the announcement itself as a threat with hostile intentions. The South Korean military is closely working with the United States and will be monitoring for further provocations. Seoul's military has activated crisis management operations and deployed Navy convoys near the maritime border to cope with any possible contingency. Several inter-Korean skirmishes have taken place around the area over the years, including the North shelling of Yeonpyeongdo Island in 2010, which killed 4 South Koreans.
So, Hyun-bin, how is the international community reacting to Monday's artillery exchange?
The White House and the Pentagon condemned the North for initiating the shelling. The White House spokesperson Jay Carney on Monday called on the North to refrain from actions that threaten regional peace and security. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel also urged Pyongyang to stop its dangerous provocations. Even China, the North's closest ally, has expressed its concerns, calling all sides to remain calm and exercise restraint. The South Korean Defense Ministry is scheduled to brief about the exchange in the next few minutes, and I have the latest on that at noon, Korea time.
Okay, Hyun-bin, well, we look forward to your next report. That was our Kim Hyun-bin reporting on Monday's artillery exchange between the two Koreas. Now, North Korea has slammed President Park Geun-hye's reunification speech, which he delivered last week during a state visit to Germany. In a much-anticipated speech in Dresden last Friday, President Park proposed 3 ways to bring the two Koreas together. 1, increasing humanitarian aid. 2, holding more family reunions with North Korea. And 3, assisting in North Korea's infrastructure projects. North Korea's state-run Korean Central News Agency on Monday condemned her remarks on the country's economic difficulties and its hungry children. It said the reality of life in North Korea had been distorted by lies uttered by defectors and false information from South Korea's spy agency. Monday's report marked the first time North Korea has commented on the president's reunification initiative. North Korea is reportedly open to discussing its abduction of Japanese nationals over 3 decades ago. That's based on a remark made to Japan's Kyodo News Agency from Junichi Ihara, the head of the Japanese delegation that met with North Korean officials in high-level talks over the past 2 days. Ihara said North Korea didn't reject Tokyo's demand for an investigation into the whereabouts of hundreds of Japanese nationals who were allegedly abducted by Pyongyang in the 1970s and 80s. He also said he protested Pyongyang's recent provocations, including its threat to carry out a new form of nuclear test and its launch of medium-range ballistic missiles last week. The government-level talks between North Korea and Japan were the first in 16 months. US Federal Reserve Chair Janet Yellen says there's still room for the central bank to help the economy. She offered a passionate defense of the Fed's easy money policies on Monday, making clear the struggling US job market will continue to need help of low interest rates for some time to come, our Ji Myung-gil reports.
In her first public speech since becoming Fed chair 2 months ago, Janet Yellen cited the struggles of 3 American workers to back up the central bank's policies of low interest rates and continued bond buying. She said considerable slack still exists in the job market, a sign that further monetary stimulus can still be effective.
I think this extraordinary commitment is still needed and will be for some time. And I believe this view is widely shared by my fellow policymakers at the Fed.
The Fed has held interest rates near zero for more than 5 years now. The central bank says it will keep rates there for a considerable time even after it ends its bond buying program, which is on course to be wound down later this year. Yellen said the U.S. economy remains well short of the Fed's goals of maximum sustainable employment.
I believe the Fed's policies will continue to help sustain progress in the job market. But the scars from the Great Recession remain, and reaching our goals will take time.
U.S. stocks rose on Monday, with the Standard & Poor's 500 ending March with moderate gains. Yellen's remarks calmed investors, many of whom had grown anxious the Fed might raise short-term rates by mid-2015. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
South Korea's consumer prices grew at their fastest pace in 7 months in March. According to Statistics Korea Tuesday, the country's consumer price index rose 1.3% in March from a year earlier to mark the fastest on-year rise since August last year, when it gained 1.5%. The government attributed last month's rise to hiked childcare tuition fees, as well as increasingly expensive processed food like snacks. Agricultural prices saw a slight drop, but livestock and marine product prices rose compared to a month earlier. It's been exactly 10 years since Korea's first ever free trade agreement came into effect. Korea's auto industry has benefited the most from the country's FTA with Chile. The nation's farmers, however, are less satisfied with the decade-old deal. Our Na Hyung-kyung reports.
The trade volume between Korea and Chile has jumped 4.5 times to more than $7 billion over the past 10 years. Exports grew from $500 million to $2.5 billion, while imports more than quadrupled to $4.7 billion, according to the Korea Customs Service. Given that Korea's overall trade volume increased about threefold in the same period, experts say the trade sector has without question benefited from the Korea-Chile FTA. Since 2004, Korea has entered into 9 free trade pacts with a total of 46 countries, and the nation's automobile industry remains the biggest beneficiary. But very real concerns linger over the impact on the nation's agricultural industry. In order to minimize the negative effects on the domestic agricultural sector, experts are calling for reforms in the market's retail structure.
For items that are dominant in the market, more open competition needs to be in place so that the consumers can reap the benefits. Korea's retail industry also tends to be monopolistic. Diverse retail channels will help products compete in a fairer manner.
Questions over whether the nation's small and mid-sized firms have seen any benefits also remain. A survey conducted by the Korea International Trade Association shows that although 60% of the nation's SMEs with sales of less than $9.3 million utilized the FTAs, nearly half felt that the trade deals had not helped them in any way. Trade officials have called for more detailed and customized information to be readily available to the SMEs so that they can strategize and pave themselves an easier path into the overseas market. 나현경, Arirang News.
Two Samsung Group companies are merging. The deal announced on Monday has Samsung SDI, the group's unit in charge of developing battery technologies, acquiring the group's textile firm Seoul Industries. The merger will be finalized in July. When that's done, Samsung SDI will be one of the conglomerate's biggest business units with market capitalization of around $9.3 billion and assets worth $14 billion. Samsung SDI has been developing display and parts technologies with a new emphasis on batteries since 2002. Seoul Industries has been involved in the fashion, chemical and electronic material industries since being founded back in 1954. Now, the ongoing legal feud between Samsung and Apple has begun in earnest. A second round of patent trials has kicked off in a California courtroom, this time with Apple seeking $2 billion from its Korean rival. Apple is expected to demand $40 for every smartphone device Samsung has sold since 2011 as compensation for its alleged infringement on iPhone features. Samsung is expected to ask for $22 million in damages from Apple for copying its technologies. Google, meanwhile, will make its first court appearance over its software in Samsung phones. Experts believe it could signal an even bigger patent clash between Google and Apple. And now for a look at the international headlines we are following at this hour. We are going to connect live to our Eunice Kim, who is standing by at the News Centre. Very, very good morning to you, Eunice. Now, France's socialist president has named a new prime minister following a rout at local elections on Sunday.
Hi, Mark. That's right. French President François Hollande tapped former Interior Minister Manuel Valls as his new prime minister after his former number 2 resigned following the ruling party's brutal election losses. The ruling Socialist Party lost more than 150 major towns in Sunday's local elections, mostly to the opposition right, the Front National. And in a televised message to the nation, President Hollande acknowledged his government's failure to turn around the Eurozone's second largest economy. He also promised to cut labor charges for business and tax cuts to boost consumer spending. Prime Minister-designate Valls is expected to present a leaner government team before President Hollande heads to Brussels later this week. And in a surprise move, Russia appears to have taken a step back. A battalion of Russian troops pulled back from the tense border between Russia and eastern Ukraine Monday. It is unclear whether this is the start of a pullback or a rotation of its forces. It's estimated that 40,000 men are amassed at that border area. German Chancellor Angela Merkel's office confirmed Russian President Vladimir Putin informed her in a phone call that he'd ordered a partial troop withdrawal on Monday. Earlier, Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev visited Crimea with a delegation of government ministers to promise support to boost salaries, pension, and local infrastructure. Kiev condemned the visit as a crude violation of international rules. Meanwhile, NATO foreign ministers are to meet in Brussels beginning Tuesday to discuss steps that can be taken to support Ukraine, among other things. And what appeared to be a promising lead turned out to be a dead end. The 4 floating orange items spotted from the air, which matched the color of missing Malaysia Airlines Flight 370, was recovered Monday and were confirmed to be not plane parts, but fishing gear. Meanwhile, Malaysian authorities have revised the last words heard from the plane as "Good night, Malaysian 370," not "All right, good night," as previously reported. The Transport Ministry said forensic evidence would determine who spoke those final words. Flight 370 is believed to have disappeared over the Indian Ocean while en route to Beijing from Kuala Lumpur on March 8th. The United Nations highest court has ruled that Japan must halt its whaling program in the Southern Ocean around Antarctica after finding that it did not constitute scientific research as Tokyo had claimed. The legally binding decision came in a 12-4 judgment. The presiding judge said the research program was responsible for killing 3,600 minke whales and a number of fin whales since 2005 with limited scientific output. The court issued an immediate cancellation of all whaling permits under the program, a decision Japan said it would accept, albeit with disappointment. The case was brought to the International Court of Justice in 2010 by Australia, who said the program was commercial whaling in disguise.
That a team of South Korea.
Get connected to Korea and the world. Join us every weekday for the latest developments out of Korea, Asia, and beyond. On air, on your mobile, and online, we lead the way every day. Arirang News.
To try and resolve the crisis in Ukraine, the European Union also offers 15 billion. The cities of Seoul and Beijing will sign an agreement this week to jointly tackle air pollution in Northeast Asia. The Seoul city government said Monday that Mayor Park Won-soon will ink the deal on Thursday when he meets with Beijing Mayor Wang An-sun in the Chinese capital. The agreement says efforts to deal with air pollution should be undertaken regionally and both cities should cooperate closely on the issue. During his trip, Mayor Park will also visit China's first observatory that measures pollutants. Smog from China is a major source of air pollution on the Korean peninsula. Now, everyone knows that riding a motorcycle can be extremely dangerous, but a new eco-friendly two-wheeled vehicle has a special feature that actually makes it much more safer than most other things on the road. Our Son Jung-in reports.
This fully enclosed two-wheel vehicle is part motorcycle, part car, and virtually untippable, and it could soon be in your garage. Its most notable feature is it's able to balance itself and stay upright when fully stopped or even when being pulled by a rope tied to a moving truck. So in the event of a collision, the vehicle balances itself instead of falling over, giving the rider more protection. Daniel Kim, the Korean-American founder and CEO of Lit Motors, who came up with the design, says the secret lies in a special feature.
So if you're wondering how to keep balanced, we have a patented technology. We use gyroscopes to actually keep the vehicle upright. So it makes it untippable. So you need a baby elephant to knock it over.
Safety is a key, but with a maximum speed of 160 kilometers per hour, it's also pretty speedy. The two-person vehicle is also electric and can go almost 320 kilometers on a 2-hour charge. Kim says the vehicle will be released within the year for a price of $24,000. Son Jung-in, Arirang News.
And a good Tuesday morning to you all as we kick things off in the LPGA, where the world #1 LPGA golfer Park In-bi is set to lead a group of 4 South Korean golfers in July at the inaugural International Crown. With the international event taking place for the first time, 8 nations will battle it out, with top 4 ranked golfers from each nation coming together from July 24th to the 27th. And with Park In-bi leading a group that consists of 6th ranked Yoo So-yeon, 11th ranked Chen Ah-yeon, and 15th ranked Kim In-kyung, they hope to prove Korea's dominance in the LPGA. And shifting over to the major leagues, where the LA Dodgers and the San Diego Padres kicked off the U.S. opening day in the majors. And with Clayton Kershaw out, Hyun-bin took the mound looking for his second win of the season. And what a brilliant game by the South Korean lefty as he pitches 7 innings, giving up just 3 hits, no runs, while striking out 7 Padres hitters. But the Dodgers offense gives him just 1 run to work on as Brian Wilson gives up 3 runs in the 8th inning, giving Lee Hyun-bin a no decision in the 3-1 loss to the Padres. And staying in baseball, but back here in the nation with the Lotte Giants and the Hanwha Eagles rained out this past Saturday. They made up that game on Monday. course, going into the game here, man on second, Kim Tae-gyun singles to center, and the Hanwha Eagles take an early 1-0 lead. Leading off the fourth inning, Chung Hyun-suk drives this one to deep right field, and there it goes, a solo shot. Makes it 2-0 Hanwha. But rally time for Lotte in the sixth inning, Kang Min-ho with a man on, and there it goes, back, got a 2-run shot, and it's tied 2-2. Next play, man on third, Moon Gyu-hyun, and RBI double to right, makes it 3-2 before Lotte scores 3 more times for a 6-2 lead. Seventh inning this time up 7-2 with 2 men on. Chung-won sends this one to deep right center, a 2-run triple, and it's 9-2. Fast forwarding to the 8th inning, here he is once again, Kang Min-ho, this time to right field, second one of the night, and a solo shot as the Lotte Giants crush the Hanwha Eagles 11-2. And now shifting over to Game 3 of the championship series between the GS Caltex and the IBK Altos in the Women's V-League. With the two teams even in the series, IBK jumps all over GS Caltex early in the match, taking the first 2 sets with ease, 25-18 and 25-18. But all of a sudden, GS Caltex steps off their defense, taking the next 2 sets 25-15 and 25-22, forcing it to a 5th set. But with Karina Casio leading the way with 47 points and Kim Hee-jin adding 19 points on the night, IBK Altos takes the 5th set 15-9 and wins this match 3-2. And finishing things off with NCAA March Madness, and what a madness it was during the past few weeks. And after all that, we now have our final 4 schools. And while number 1 seed Florida and number 2 seed Wisconsin isn't much of a surprise heading into the Final 4, 7 seed UConn and 8 seed University of Kentucky proves that they are a tournament team as they look for the upset in the Final 4. Meanwhile, Florida will face off against UConn and Wisconsin will face off against Kentucky on April 5th. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
It's April already, and first day of new month has kicked off quite mild and sunny, but it looks like a fair amount of sunshine will give way to clouds as the day progresses. And as of 10 a.m. this morning, the temperature here in Seoul reached to 15 degrees Celsius, and it's still on the rise, which means spring heat wave will continue to sweep the peninsula, and it will be even warmer than yesterday as the entire nation will see a couple of degrees higher afternoon highs today. But after pleasant and warm forecasts in a row, we are going to see things cool down a good bit before the end of the week, and there's a chance of rain in picture on Thursday in the central region, but temperatures will continue to remain above the seasonal averages. So please do keep that in mind, and let's take a closer look at the readings for today. Well, the huge temperature difference between day and night will continue today as the morning low in Seoul started out at 10, but it will rise to 22, while Daegu and Gwangju should get up to 23, and Busan should top out at 19 with patches of clouds. Now let's see how other regions are looking. It looks like down on Jeju and Daejeon will peak to 19 and 22 respectively. Dokdo sees a high of 14 in the day, and mild afternoon is in store in Mount Kumgang reaching to 15. Well, with cherry blossoms in full bloom, Cherry Blossom Festival organizers put the festivals forward to this weekend. That's about 2 weeks earlier than they planned. So if you'd like to check out those blossoms, make it this weekend. Well, that's all for me at this hour. I'll be back with more updates after Newsline at noon, and hope you have a wonderful day.
And that's all for now. We'll be back at noon Korea time. In the meantime, you can always catch up with what's been happening on our website, arirang.co.kr/news.